Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for another show. And happy to have our Swanton Today show. First time in a while. Happy to have on board across the table Swanton Village President Neil Spear and Swanton Village Manager Reg Velivo. Good to see you folks. Thanks for jumping on. I should probably know we're taping this show on Tuesday, July 26th. Well, I guess summer's moving along pretty well, huh?
It is. For sure.
Burlington having just knocked off a 6-day heat wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, but pretty nice summer weather-wise, at least before that hot weather checked in. Sounds like compared to the rest of the country, we've been doing pretty well around here.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, it's been a while, folks. What's the big news in Swanton in the last couple months, Neil? Any huge story coming right to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the Riviera Hotel.
The Riv was on my list.
That is finally moving along. The cleanup is finally moving along.
Really?
Thanks to some grants from Northwest Regional Planning Commission and our Economic Development Coordinator, Elizabeth Nance, who works at Tim Smith's office now, too.
Yeah.
And last week, a group from Barrie called Absolute came in and removed a 1,000-gallon fuel oil tank that was in the ground and also a 275-gallon tank that was in the basement and cleaned up the seepage underneath it. So
was there still fuel in those tanks?
A little bit, not the one in the basement. And the one in the ground, there was mostly water. It was full. They pumped almost 1,000 gallons out of it, but it was it was like tainted water. And of course the soil that they took out from under the tank was tainted, but it was clay soil down below, so it didn't seep too deep. So they only had to take about a foot of the clay out, which is if anybody goes by, the snowbank out in the front yard is the tainted soil from under the tank that they took out. So and the company is KAS Engineering in Williston is looking to do some test borings next week, and that will be the conclusion of their Phase 2 assessment, which we have. Then we'll actually know for sure what we have to clean up before we can take the building down. So,
geez, that's been on your agenda for, many years, decades, or?
Yes, many years.
Why has that been, again, just pretty complicated? It just seems like knocking down one building shouldn't be so difficult, but I guess it was, huh?
Well...
long story.
I think part of it is if you don't try to get funding for it and you do it on your own dollar.
And that would have been some bucks.
Yeah, probably goes quicker, but to get funding from it, you just got to follow.
The mechanism that's involved in cleanup, St. Albans City knows the deal too. The mechanism that is involved in cleanup of brownfields issues is a long, drawn-out process.
Yeah.
But it has to be done because to protect the environment and the people that might develop the lot afterwards.
Right. Yeah, St. Albans City, as you probably know, is involved with that as we speak with the old Fonda Solo site where the Railroad Dispatch Center will be moving to. So I guess they got some pretty good outside money to help with that. Yeah. What any future plan? It'd be nice to get a vacant lot there. Any future plans for the Riv site if you once the building's gone?
Before
the village owns that land.
The village owns the property, and before the brownfields issues started, we had a couple of developers that were interested in housing, multiple housing, not single family home, but and then we found out that it was really tainted with the brownfields issues, and so they kind of backed away. But we're hoping after we get the lot cleaned up, we'll be able to entertain some proposals from developers well, it depends on what the ideas are, but we're assuming it will be housing because it's a neighborhood now. It was a hotel, but it's zoned residential now, so.
And the hotel dates to how old a hotel? Talking,
It was 1870s, I
Really?
think. And it was originally called the Adams House
huh,
before it was renamed, so.
interesting. I trust you didn't run into any grief from historic preservation people about knocking down a historic building or about
no.
being naive.
They don't seem to want to go into the building at all.
Yeah, sounds
But
like
the-
a pretty tough shape.
And
When was that last in use?
80s, I think.
Yeah, probably the
'Cause
Well,
I
there's
definitely-
been somebody
yeah.
living in there, in the apartments, up to about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
probably, yeah.
Wow.
I think Neil and I fought the fire back in the
Yeah.
80s.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I probably mentioned this before. My last memory, about the only time I can remember being in there was when there was a murder with John Edwards and our state police chief leading out a suspect. That's kind of my one main memory of the Riven, probably going back, I guess, to circa 1980 or so, maybe.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like that won't be a huge loss.
No, well, it's.
Had
it's
quite the
basically-
history, I guess.
It's basically fallen down, and
Yeah, looks like it's in pretty tough
filthy,
shape.
it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm as much of a historian, I mean, for restoring historic buildings as
Sure.
anybody, but that building there has been let go
Yeah.
so long. The roofs have rotted, and the water has rotted the floor system all the way to the basement.
Yeah.
And there was a fire there, like Reg says, and all the third floor and the attic are all charred. So to restore or upgrade that, you'd have to take half of it down. And it'd only be the first and second floors left.
Yeah.
And the cost would be phenomenal for what, so.
So you weren't running into, I trust, many people, if anybody, telling you to restore it?
No.
Seems like it was just way beyond that.
So,
Wow, the Riv, interesting.
yeah.
So it sounds like, how big's the parcel there? Parcel's not real big, I assume.
Third of an acre. I
Third
think.
of an acre.
Was
Of
it
course,
a
that's your neighborhood. You're not too far away.
No, no.
My friend Mr. Patch, you guys are right there.
Yeah, right.
Well, it sounds like that'll be a nice improvement once you get that out of the way.
Hopefully.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's part of the important part with the studies and the brownfields that we're doing,
Yeah.
is that the next owner needs to have that basically golden ticket that says
Oh, yeah.
property's clean. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
So we've got to start. We got the state's approval, the okay to, the engineer did the testing below the tank. We dug out as much clay that was saturated that was acceptable for the state. The state told us it was clean, so to fill the hole in. So that's the first step. So
No, sounds like some progress.
Yeah.
Speaking of progress, I hope, Reg, just probably guess what I'm going to ask you. Relicensing of the Ormond Croft generating facility. When I last left you, it sounds like you weren't having a lot of fun with that. Progress with that, or is that still just
So
pretty tough? Huh?
Yeah, we submitted our
Wow.
application to FERC, and FERC came back with some discrepancies, which we knew they were going to come back with.
As in Federal Energy Regulatory Commission?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, part of the process here, because we're ahead of the game, is, submit what we think they're gonna want, and then wait for them to come back and ask for more information, what they're looking for, rather than spend money up front and they don't really want it. So, we did that, and we're still waiting on the issues that we had with the Agency of Natural Resources on what they wanted to see for more studies. And the engineers that we have and the scientists, river scientists that we have on retainer are basically saying that these studies aren't going to prove anything. Just the way our project operates, the way we draw down our pond and deliver water through the plant and down river, it doesn't impact that ecosystem any more than a normal rain, Mother Nature would impact it. So it's pretty, there's terminologies they use, kind of like, I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but, there's an area that the agencies are particularly interested in, and our scientists are saying it's you can't even evaluate it, it's so minuscule, but they're still, forcing that. One of the things they wanted us to do is go run a river, which means we can't pond anymore, so water in, water out. But that helps us shave our peaks and reduces our load, our energy, our transmission for the year. That's like, if you notice that VEPSA sent us these alerts to send out on our Facebook page, tell everybody, to, hey, pay attention to your what you're using during these peaks, during these hot spells. And, you get comments like, well, what happens if I have an electric car and all this other stuff? Well, the issue is not that our grid can't handle it. The issue is that when you have heat waves like this, and it could be what they call the, like the peak for the summer months, that is where we're charged our transmission fees for the entire year. So if we can shave those peaks down and keep them modest, it reduces our what we have to pay in for transmission charges, and it just reflects back on rates to the customers. So by doing their share, I mean, they could, in essence, save money for our ratepayers. So.
Yeah. So again, the process is ongoing, but just
Yeah.
sounds like that's taking up a decent hunk of your time these days, huh?
Well, I mean, it does when we're debating back and forth.
Yeah.
But I mean, the attorneys and our scientists and specialists are, doing the lion's share of the work. It's more, for me, it's more reading.
Yeah.
Then when they ask for information, I go to my resources, within the village to get the information that they need and send it to them. So.
Huh. Gee, it just sounds like it's just such a long, slow process, despite what seems like such a solid track record. But the track record almost sounds like it's just not even worth that much of you.
But so it's been determined that in today's dollars, that if we did the Runner River and we did the constant flow over the bladder that they want for aesthetics, it would cost us annually between $350,000 to $500,000 a year loss of revenue per year. So if you do the math, it's about
that ratepayers are obviously on the hook for.
Yep.
I assume.
Yep. I mean, so that money is what you use to pay your indebtedness or any improvements, and that kind of stuff. It's what, $6.8 million over the life of the license, the third year.
Wow. So I mean, if that's the case, you raise enough rates to just cover that loss of revenue. That's what happens if it comes to that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the trustees have the appetite to fight it, because it doesn't make sense.
Does this happen? I'm sure you monitor other folks going through the same process. Does it seem like everybody, any municipality, whatever you're familiar with, electric department, has such a problem? Is this just kind of pretty typical?
Yeah.
Is it really? Just seems like hydro, we talk about this every show, I think. Hydro just seems like it, from your point of view, just doesn't, I don't know, get the respect, for lack of a better word, than it used to or something.
Almost seems like a four-letter word for the state.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I don't know if Reg, or I think this is clear, the environmental agency that's questioning our relicensing is the Vermont State Agency.
Right, as
So,
opposed to
and
the feds?
They're thriving on being the bad guys, I guess. If there was substance to what they were wishing for studies, it would be a whole different ballgame, but there's no substance to what their requests are, except that it's costing the municipalities a ton of money, and in like manner it's costing the ratepayers, because the municipalities have to cover their costs. And if you're trying to do your due diligence, and the state comes in and just says, we need more information, and it's not justified, you're basically throwing away your money.
Is it like Morrisville? I mean, Morrisville was going through theirs for Green River, and basically the things that they wanted Morrisville to do just basically made that facility non-functioning, for lack of a better word. They just didn't have the water to generate electricity. It was non-value add. So I'm not sure what their process is right now. I think they're negotiating with the state now to have the state purchase. Otherwise, otherwise, Morrisville owns that dam. You know, part of the upkeep of the dam is what you get on revenue from the generation. And if you can't get any revenue, then the next thing you do, you take the dam down.
Oh,
So the Green River Reservoir would be no more.
wow. Talk about, again, I'm not familiar with that, but I sure read great things about it. Sounds like it's just spectacular place.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that's just, do your local legislators, do they help you out with it? Are they, I mean, do you go to your legislators or state government? Well, I guess state government's the problem, huh? One of the agencies, but,
I mean,
it sounds like a very frustrating situation.
you gotta, how can I put
Guess
this?
you gotta be a little careful with,
You
what you're
gotta,
doing, huh?
you guess you gotta pick your battle or know when to
Yeah.
swing the stick,
Yeah,
you know, who to bring into the fight.
yeah.
I mean, definitely, you know, I'm not sure if sitting with Governor Scott would help. But obviously, you know, the climate, the state climate committee would be the first step, you know, to go sit with them. We have VEPSA, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. We
Yeah.
have sat down with Julie Moore and had discussions about hydro and, you know, before we started our relicensing. And
The former, A&R chief now, and the former Lake Czar, so-called.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was
Huh.
pretty much an immovable object, I guess. It was a waste of breath.
Really?
But anyway, we had the conversations with them and just gave them our feelings, and we put in our comments on the new water quality standards of 401, and they looked at it, and none of our comments were added into the bill or the law. So, yeah.
I mean, do you get the sense that the state, some of these folks would just like you to just, you know, shut down the hydro and just get your power otherwise, or not quite that extreme?
Everything that I can see is that they want the rivers to flow as normal.
Yeah.
So whether you have hydro or whatever, they just water in, water out, so run a river basically is what they're shooting for.
And do they see that as improving, I don't know, fisheries? Or did they see, I assume, some benefits if you did that, or is that not clear?
Well, like I said, our scientists and our
They're not buying that.
No, they're saying no, that whether you do, because it fluctuates the river so
Yeah.
minuscule. So it's non-measurable, put it that way.
Huh. So how long, when does your current license, what's the time frame on this?
April of '24.
April of '24?
Yep.
Huh. And what happens if that comes and you still don't have a relicense? What happens at that point? Do you start getting fined or something, or?
No, so if FERC approves our license, absent of the 401,
Yeah.
we can still operate on our old 401, our water quality. So from
Yeah.
there, we can just continuously debate with the agencies.
But obviously, it'd be nice to get, so we're talking 30 years, be nice to get relicensed, so you're presumably, one of your successors
Wouldn't have to worry about it.
isn't being tortured for a while with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, it sounds like a very difficult process.
There's a lot of, I mean, the more I know about the process, the more I know I don't know. So
Really?
it's, I mean, really, you're gonna experience it once in your career,
Yeah,
you know, as a hydro owner.
yeah,
So, and I just happen to be the lucky dog to be sitting here
yeah.
during this time period.
I'm sure I've mentioned before, I can literally remember, I can't give you the year, but when Norman Croft, you know, was paying a fair amount of attention in my early reporting days to Swanton, and certainly talked to him about the same issue when he called me up and said, "Richard, great news, we just got relicensed," whatever. Well, I guess we're talking going back roughly 30 years, I guess.
Yeah, it was probably,
So
well,
probably maybe mid-80s, or I guess I should say
I think 90-91 was
Yeah.
the
early
impoundment.
90s maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
20 years.
Yeah, we were able to
Not
extend
30
it.
years, yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
I remember the phone, remember him calling me up and just sounding so understandably pleased, because I'm sure he had put in a lot of effort on that.
Yeah.
Boy, sounds like a tough issue. Again, taping the show on July 26th, Tuesday, July 26th. Not sure when it's airing, but in case it's in the next few days, we have a big car show coming up Saturday.
Yes.
That's a good show.
Swanton Chamber is putting on
The Chamber is the official sponsor.
12th I think it's the 12th annual
Really?
car show.
Great show.
And
In fact, I interviewed a couple of Swanton selectmen, Mr. Gilmet and Mr. White the other day, and it sounds like, not really a problem, but it sounds like it's kind of getting SRO. You're almost having trouble finding enough room for all the cars, or maybe you
Yes.
can't even find enough room for them all.
Yeah.
That's a great show.
I talked to Adam last night at our meeting.
Yeah.
He's chamber president.
Yeah.
And he's been in charge, he and Mark Rushlow have been in charge of the car show for forever,
Yeah.
I guess. And he said there's about 75 people already pre-registered for
Oh.
it. So we usually have at least a couple hundred cars.
Yeah.
And so that's, and the participants love the Swanton Car Show
Yeah.
because it's all on grass and trees
Right.
instead of hot blacktop. And it's, everybody's close together, so.
Yeah.
And Adams put in for, or the Swanton Chambers put in for a nice day on Saturday, and they're promising us that.
Yeah,
so.
it sounds like, at this point, sounds like decent day, hopefully.
Yep, so.
Actually, St. Albans Town, not sure who the I don't know if it was a town, but had a real nice car show at the Bay Park
Yes.
month and a half ago, but pretty impressive show. That place is pretty filled up, too.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, they had one on Main Street. too.
No,
Yeah.
right.
That was well attended.
Downtown
so.
had the classic.
So,
Yeah, it's a good, nice event. Is rain date Sunday? Do they even bother with a rain date? I forget.
I don't
Oh,
think they.
I don't know, it's probably pretty tough to do a rain day or something like that. Sounds
Yeah.
like Saturday, sounds like a decent day. And for folks who want to make it a really good weekend, that's always, I guess, last Saturday in July for the Swanton Car Show.
Right.
Next day is a Jig in the Valley, if you like some
Right.
decent music in
Yep.
East Fairfield. That's always the
Yep.
last Sunday in July, so that's a pretty good weekend coming up.
Busy weekend, yes.
Going back to the hydro thing, ARPA money, is that something that could do you some good somehow with the hydro situation or not, or the relicensing? Is that a bit of a stretch?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of other, we still have to hold our public meeting to hear what everybody's feeling is on use of the ARPA funds. But I'd hate to throw ARPA money at the hydro relicensing
Yeah.
at this point, anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. How much ARPA money is,
I think it was 726,000, I believe,
Really?
we're supposed to get. And I'm not sure if we got the second installment yet, but I do know we got the first.
have you made any decisions on how to dispense that money at this point?
I mean, we have projects in mind, but before we move forward on some of those, one of the issues is obviously lead time on materials and
Right.
contractors. I mean, the same token, while we're mentioning that is like the bridge repair for the expansion joints on the downtown bridge. Just to get, we put out bids for that, so we had a $175,000 highways grant that we received to repair that, and we had no bidders the first go around, so we had
Really?
to
No
put.
bidders?
No bidders, so we had to
Really?
go out for a second round, and so we did get 2 bids, and we had the bid openings on Monday, and the lowest bid was about $150,000 more than what the grant
Wow.
is. So we're still contemplating what to do next steps with that, talking with the engineers now, and then trying to talk with the state to see if there's any extra funds out there, or if their timeline for the full, complete replacement, repair of the bridge is getting moved up at any point in time. Obviously you don't want to do that project plus the Route 78
Right.
project all together,
Right.
because that would just, it's like, you might as well shut 78 down.
Wow.
But trying to figure out, if they can move the project up, then we could just do a minor repair, probably do it in-house, and then get us to the complete refurb.
Interesting, but bridges don't last forever, obviously. At some point, you need to replace that bridge, but is that quite a ways down the road, or?
They moved it up on the list.
Really?
V-Trans.
25, 20, 25.
Yeah, I think it was 3 to 5 years.
Really,
They
for a
moved it.
bridge replacement?
Yeah.
So it sounds like, boy, spending a lot of money on ahead of time doesn't sound like it makes much sense if that's gonna be that close.
Well, that was the other concern. Do
Right.
I want to use $150,000 of
Right.
ARPA money on a bridge that's going to get all torn apart?
Right,
So we're trying to be responsible with the money.
Boy, let's talk about the bridge replacement, having just gone over the Champlain Bridge in Montreal a couple times. They got that done pretty fast.
Yeah.
I'm struck by the contrast with the drawbridge in Grand Isle County. Hasn't that been going on for like about 4 years or something?
Yeah.
No offense to those guys, but boy, they got the new Champlain Bridge done, I think, pretty fast up there.
Yeah.
They're now dismantling the old bridge right next to it. So with the bridge replacement in Swanton, boy, is that do they put up a temporary bridge? I mean, traffic will
Yeah.
continue to go across here somehow, or?
That's the same way they did when they replaced the bridge originally. You come down Gristmill Hill there, and to the right, they'll put a temporary bridge in from
Okay.
the parking lot at Marble Mill across the river
Yeah.
and come out about where the, it's David Winchester's building there now, right by the park that Gordon Winters
Yeah.
put in on the corner there.
Yeah.
So they circumvent the bridge, and the new bridge, as they call it, is going to be the deck and the railings, not taking the steel out. They're just taking
Oh, is that
the
right?
abutments, and the steel will stay.
Huh.
And they're pulling all the floor up and re-pouring that. And well, if there's steel in it or rebar or whatever, they'll have to replace that. But it's not a complete bridge replacement, but the whole deck and railing system is
That's
gonna
right.
be
How long a project is that? Any idea how long that would take?
Not sure.
Not sure.
How long's North Hero taking?
It's- don't. Boy, I don't think you want to go there. But so that's not too many years away then.
No.
Speaking of Marble Mill Park, I know has there been some work in there, some renovations? I haven't checked out the park for a while. That was kind of on a list somewhere, right?
Well, so there's a couple of projects that are associated with Marble Mill Park,
Yeah.
so we're kind of like, like Neil said, the bridge
But
replacement.
you got the
so-
bridge thing
so
hanging over that.
That'll affect the entryway, and then the river crossing, water line, that we did some testing on that, and we have to do some more boring this summer to see where the ledge, how deep the ledge is, and that kind of stuff, before we can get an accurate quote for the crossing. So, I mean, that affects where the tennis courts, that area.
Right.
So, I mean, when you got that type of construction, it's, you've got to kind of weigh how much work you're gonna do.
So that's kind of on hold at this point to some
Yeah.
extent?
Yeah, we had applied for a grant down there, and we weren't offered it.
The actual boat, there's a boat access right across the river from Marble Mill?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's, we call it Goose Point.
Goose Point?
Yeah.
Interesting. Anybody still after getting rid of speaking of dams, the lower Village Dam? Is that the official name for the one near the highway bridge?
Oh, yeah.
I know there are some of your good friends at Lake Champlain International wanted that gone. Is that issue still loom on anybody's radar or not particularly?
We could speculate the reason why we're having such a difficult time relicensing is they're trying to roll.
Maybe connected with that.
They're trying to roll that,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that hasn't been explicitly noted or anything?
No.
Interesting.
We actually do have somebody that submitted a preliminary application for that dam.
For hydro generation.
No, because I know, because you had checked, hadn't you looked into that a while back?
Yeah, there was a gentleman named Bill Scully, and bless his soul, he's passed away. And that's why it kind of went on hold, but he was looking at a design for hydro generation there. So now we have another company called Stonecat LLC, and they're actually looking at, they filed a preliminary permit with FERC, and there's something else associated with that. I don't remember what the acronym is. So FERC is reviewing that right now.
Oh, really? Interesting. Was there hydro there hydro generation there before at some point?
No.
No?
No, I think there was
It was
used as.
water power, but
Yeah.
it was turbines and belts. It was not electricity.
Yeah.
So,
For the Marble Works, right?
yeah, the Marble Works, and there was a sawmill and a grain elevator on the village side, way back, but before you got here.
Even boy, that was a while ago. Right, we've talked before, I know the state, I believe, was after you folks and I guess other municipalities for reducing phosphorus from wastewater facilities. And it seems like at one point you said, I think you said, we can't do what they want. Is that still the case, or where does that stand?
So we can reduce it chemically. So we've proven we can do that chemically, but it's very expensive. So we do have a vendor that Blue Pro, I think it was, that actually was able to remove the phosphorus from our effluent pretty effectively. So I mean that's a project that's sitting there right now. I mean, we're able to meet our minimum requirements right now. So we've got the analysis, we've got the vendor chosen. We're just basically picking our battles right now, or where we need to spend the money.
Yeah.
And that's to upgrade that's like 2.8 million or so.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not inexpensive at all.
Well, St. Albans City, just a couple of years ago, went through what, about a $19 million, I guess, upgrade of the wastewater plant there.
Yeah. So we're one of the few wastewater plants that have a lagoon system in the state. So I mean, when you're talking ARPA money, when you say, do we have projects? I mean, just that project, and then you've got the water line crossing. That's 800,000. At least mid-COVID, it was 800,000. Who knows what it is now?
Wow.
We've got valving that we need to replace in our water lines.
Wow.
A lot of when we have water breaks, it's not that we can't repair them. We can't shut the system down to repair them effectively. So they got what they call insertion valves that are about $1,000 an inch, that we'd strategically place them within the village, within the infrastructure, so then we can repair and replace the valving in between those two insertion valves. So our public works guy, Dean Ryan, has a game plan in place. So it's just a matter of executing and now trying to get parts. Just with the hydro, I mean, for transformers, it's like a 38-week lead time for a lot of these things.
Really?
And the prices are...
I was going to say, I'm sure inflation's not coming into play with any of this stuff, right?
I just can't figure that stuff out. But.
Wow. Village is on a fiscal year, is it not? Or are you guys counting calendar? I know the town, just like the town's calendar too, so calendar year, so about halfway through.
Yeah.
How you doing fiscally given inflation? So much for temporary inflation, huh? Boy, inflation's tough. How you doing a little over halfway through, or
I think
a little over halfway through the year?
Lynn's report was we're not doing bad. Fuel obviously is an issue.
Bad.
But so far so good.
Yeah.
Hydro is doing well, because we've had a lot of water.
Yeah.
So our generation is up, which is good.
Is that right? So you're doing okay? Because I'm hearing the D word more, drought word more, especially to the east, New Hampshire, maybe parts of Maine.
Yeah.
Burlington, I know, is just like, I think, about an inch and a half below its usual precip, so I guess not too bad around here on that front, I guess.
We've had some staff changes there where we've moved people around and made some internal promotions that they've taken the efficiency curves of the units with the water that they have coming in and calculating that out to CFS that they can produce. So whatever CFS that they can get with KW produced. So they've been doing that, and we're actually hitting numbers of one of our best years in 2019.
Really?
Yeah. So ironically, we've had the rain that hit the watershed just at the right times. So we had during this hot spell, we were running 9 megawatts. So the rain that hit J Peak in that area, we were hitting the peaks that we needed to hit. And there again, that helps when they're calling for energy, which is crazy. Usually it runs like $8-10, maybe $15 kW. It was $1,000, and we were hitting them. So that helps us quite a bit as far as our costs, transmission costs.
Well, faring pretty well on the hydro front.
Yeah.
Summer projects in the village. We're talking some repaving, some stuff going on.
We have a couple of small projects to repave, just a couple of small streets, and then we have a sidewalk project that we're doing right now, putting in curbing and a sidewalk in front of the Swanton Central School on 4th Street. It's pretty unsafe for the kids to walk that area, and so Dean said, well, that's going to be our priority this year, to keep the kids safe and improve that crossing. So they're in the process of doing that now. again, some insertion valves, and we may be working on the bridge this year ourselves, so wait
We
and
have to
see.
do it ourselves.
We may have to,
We did the other side ourselves.
Yep.
Oh.
yeah, we may have to.
And traffic moving through downtown with the kind of the reconfiguration a bit, is that, will that stick? Will that be kind of a permanent thing, how you're weaving traffic through kind of Merchants Row area?
You mean,
Well, it's
When we're
not,
working
it may
on the
not be
bridge?
too new, but, you know, just kind of the posts that just kind of
The
rerouting the traffic through,
yeah,
delineators, yeah.
yeah, whatever, delineators, is that,
well, if we do the work on the bridge ourselves, that won't be a problem.
yeah,
Because it's not gonna be as involved as the bid process. The expansion joints are the problem. I mean, there's a steel plate that's covers the expansion joint that was welded to the steel in the concrete, and that the salt has eaten that away, so there's nothing left to weld the plate to. So every time a car, truck, it doesn't have to be a large vehicle, goes over that, and you can hear that
really,
it shakes my chair in my living room
really,
every night. And when the truck traffic from the west comes through, starting about 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night,
yeah.
it's bang, bang, bang every time that tractor trailer goes across there. And what we did on the other side, just took the plate out and filled it with hot mix. So it's like a cushion in there, and it's quiet. So, but we'll see what happens with the bid process. So.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we had the downtown scoping study, we had a grant, and we haven't received the grant yet, but there was some infrastructure work that was gonna get done, having a three-way stop at First Street and Grand Avenue because of the massive amount of truck traffic.
Yeah,
I mean, they seem to be handling themselves fine, but it would be nice, you know, we'll do a study first, and if the study works out well, we'll do a full implementation. There's conversations about having one lane, no turn lane coming off Canada Street in front of Merchants Row, the Ace area, because it's a bear to try to turn left off of Canada Street.
right,
And then we wanted to do some streetscaping, so there's some issues in the downtown with some of the businesses not having handicap accessibility inside their business, so we want to do an inventory.
On Merchants Row.
Merchants Row, thank you. To do an inventory of businesses within our sidewalk infrastructure that need handicap accessibility.
yeah.
So maybe we'll use some of the ARPA funds for that. But, yeah, we haven't received the grant yet, and so just the changes that we made back when they did the resurfacing of First Street are working pretty well, I guess.
Any news of note downtown? Of course, Ace in the last couple of years was, I guess, the big news. Any news of note with goings on downtown, Neil?
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
There's
some good
lots. The Winterses are restoring the old theater building,
Okay.
and they're coming right along on that. They poured concrete. They're going to put a new metal roof on this week, the end of this week. I think Gordon said he's proposing 3 different sections in that building for 3 different businesses. He's going to have a covered entry for seating outside between the building and the driveway for the Ace. Of course, he has some mock-up drawings out in the front yards. But there's going to be 2 entries and a window in between on the side facing the driveway. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the front yet. I think they're going to mimic the theater looks, the appearance of the theater, but they're picking apart the parging on the front of the building now to see what kind of brickwork is underneath. But so, and the Ace is doing fine. They're pretty busy.
Yeah.
Merchants Row, we're looking forward to a new business opening in the old Rexall building, and the Masonic section where the fitness center was is still vacant. We're hoping somebody will come along and take that whole space, because there's 7,000 feet. Well, there's 2 floors of 3,500 square feet in there, and we've had some calls, but nothing that wants to use that much space. There's new management in the Swanton House of Pizza, and I've heard a lot of good things about that. People, I've heard from people in St. Albans that go out there, and so she's doing real well. Scampers is still booming. She's a mainstay downtown, and the building on the end where the laundromat is, well, that needs some improvement, but we're crossing our fingers for that too. But and like Reg said, the scoping study was done for sidewalks in front of Merchants Row, outside of the existing walkway underneath, and making the whole area handicap accessible. Well, that's still in the planning stage. The scoping study was done, and we accepted some of their plans, and the next step is to go to the engineering construction phase, which will be a year or so anyway. But we're hoping we can put the downtown back together. But at this point, we're looking forward to the opening. The new owner of the Rexall building, Renee Chaffee, has done all the apartments over upstairs. She has them all rented, so she's cleaned the block up real well. And of course, the hairdresser is still there on the corner. So I think the new business is supposed to open up the 1st of or the middle of August.
I think it's
sometime in August.
In August,
anyway.
yeah.
And we're hoping to find somebody to go into the Masonic building too.
Not in the village, but it affects the village's infrastructure. Electric, water, and sewer. Is the Mylan building has been purchased by a Canadian firm. They actually make fabrics for firefighters, the military, that kind of stuff. So they do that there, and I believe there's another company looking at the old Swan Valley cheese plant as well right now.
So that's been down for a while.
Yeah.
I lose track. Seems like the comings and goings of that plant, I kind of lose track of that.
Yeah. I think they're going to do sheep.
Really?
The party that's interested in the building and wants to make some cheese products from sheep milk.
Interesting.
But they're saying that there's a lack of sufficient sheep in the state, or in Franklin County anyway. So we'll see. That's a works in progress right now. So.
Interesting. What about the airport? Talk about what could be some of the biggest news, I would think, economically in Franklin County in a long time if that pans out. But of course, Highgate voters having approved extending the water and sewer lines, I guess, from MVU. Does that work? Are we talking this year or not?
It'll probably be in 23.
Probably next year.
Yeah. So the village has signed on to a EDA grant as a co-applicant for their remaining funds. Matter of fact, I
think I didn't see just some news on that recently, maybe.
Yeah. And Heidi was asking today for some more information on one of our audits, so we sent that information to her today. So if that happens, most likely it'll be 2023. That project will start.
And you're saying you're pretty psyched about that project, Neil. It sounds like it's got some pretty good potential, I would think, huh?
Yeah, and along with that, the old Habitat building up at the airport has been sold, and they're putting an aviation center in there for
learning center
for youth oriented.
That sounds
and they're going to put a grass runway around the back side of the building, so they can bring planes in and train aviation not just pilots, avionics technicians. Try to get, it's like a aviation trade school, and that sounds pretty interesting. So along with the Harrisons are wanting to develop the lots that they have up there when the infrastructure gets put in.
And they obviously need the infrastructure before they can really move on that, obviously, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, it
that's-
sounds like there's some pretty good potential there.
so,
And of course, the state is, have they extended? I know they were going to extend the runway. Has that,
I don't
the work
know.
hasn't started?
Not yet.
next year.
No, is that right, next year for them?
Well, that's the last I heard, it was next year. They have,
Okay.
last year, the year before, they fenced in the whole area, which has never been fenced in.
Oh, yeah,
Of course, dirt bikes and ATVs have been going through
Oh,
the
yeah.
state's property, so they've fenced it all in
Huh.
in anticipation of extending the runway, so.
And that's gonna be enough to get, I'm hearing, some cargo planes coming in?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
But I mean, that's
Yeah.
an interesting collaboration with Highgate.
Yeah,
You know, we're working through logistics right now on, you know, how are things gonna get charged? How we're gonna monitor, the meter reading and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But, you know, we've signed on, we've agreed to, you know, help with whatever maintenance needs to happen, winterization of the hydrants in that area. You know, and we've promised and, we're obligated and we'll help make that successful.
that's right.
So-
And capacity-wise, Seville, you're in good
We've got
shape?
Plenty of capacity.
Plenty of capacity?
Yeah.
Speaking of that neighborhood, it sounds like we're talking some movement on the rec path or sidewalk from MVU to village limits?
Yeah,
It looks like that's moving ahead, or?
I haven't heard,
I talked to the selectmen about that.
Okay.
They made it sound like there was some pretty good movement on that. I forget exactly where they said it stood, but anyway, but that's the Swanton town
Yep.
folks.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that sidewalk, if it happens, hopefully it does, would just come into the village limits pretty much? Is that the plan?
yeah, I mean, right now there's an existing, which is in poor shape,
Yeah.
well, it's right in front of the McDonald's area.
yeah.
And, you know, it's funny the way the village and town line is divided, but it's actually, you know, in the town's portion.
Huh.
And,
So the town-village line is right around,
Yeah.
McDonald, right around there?
Yeah. And so, yeah, that'll get improved all the way up to the high school. I don't know if you've ever been to Newport, if you're sitting there near Hoagie's in Newport and, you know, near the.
The one on Waterfront Plaza?
Yeah.
I go through Newport onto my camp, regularly.
So it's funny to watch you know,
Yeah.
if you go in the fall or in the summer when the kids are in session,
Yeah,
to see all of them walking from the high school, you know, into Newport.
yeah.
And it's not any further than what MVU is to
Yeah.
the village, so, I mean, it'd be nice to see
Yeah.
that type of foot traffic.
Yeah, Newport's done and the waterfront on Lake Memphremagog is beautiful. They've done a really nice job there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I slog through Newport regularly and
Yeah,
stuff, but,
My old stomping grounds.
oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah. Geez, what else? Down to about 11 minutes. What else? Reg, either stuff we haven't talked about, jump into?
I mean, I had some notes and stuff, but I think, you know, you had, in one of your texts, you were talking about the Barton sale.
I did, boy, I noticed VEPSA, Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, I get the Chronicle,
Okay.
I think gotta think it's probably the best weekly paper in the state, but they of course paid a lot of attention to that, but I did pay attention to that issue, and this was what Barton Electric
Yep.
was looking to sell to
Vermont Electric Co-op.
Vermont Electric Co-op, and VEPSA, I guess officially didn't think too much. Was that an official VEPSA position, or
Well,
just the head honcho guy, or?
No, it was an official, yeah, so Ken
Right, Vermont
Nolan
Electric
can't,
Co-op.
yeah, he can't perform, he can't go off on his own without the board of
That makes
directors,
sense.
obviously. So, I mean, Vermont Public Power, to
Huh.
us, it's important. I mean, Swanton is obviously a public power utility,
Yeah,
100% renewable, so there's a lot of niceties, I mean, you're publicly owned.
yeah,
So, I mean, our shareholders are our ratepayers.
yeah,
You know, so having Barton not in the mix, I'm not so part of the deal with what VEPSA was trying to do was demonstrate the importance of public power
right,
to that utility and how that utility can actually help the residents, their ratepayers.
yeah,
And so basically it was a publicity, you know, a campaign to, you know, the importance of public power, which I feel that
interesting.
within Swanton, in our ratepayers, in our service territory, I feel like we don't do a good enough job touting
Yeah.
what we do for
Promoting ourselves,
our,
yeah.
And for the record, I guess VEPSA did a pretty good job. As I recall, the vote was about 2-1 or so against selling to Vermont Electric Co-op.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Not to minimize Vermont Electric Co-op, but
Yeah.
in this case, we felt as a board, it was important to keep that utility into public power.
Interesting. So what's I haven't seen, I don't think, any stories since the vote. So what's going on?
So next steps right now, they've hired Barton has hired a consultant to go through and see, okay, what are going to be the next steps? How are they going to maintain the utility? So VEPSA, we've put in our bid to help with the utility. So
Wasn't Vermont Electric Co-op, and haven't they been dealing with like lines and stuff for a while?
They had been, but since the vote, they're going to withdraw in August.
In August, wow.
Yeah.
So they're almost out of there.
Yeah. So we've put in a bid for helping them maintain their system, and so VEPSA is going to help them out, and the three surrounding utilities, Lindenville, Orleans, and Hardwick, are going to team up basically and offer like a mutual aid pact with Barton.
Interesting. And didn't Orleans have interest? Weren't they upset? Weren't they saying that they didn't have enough time or something to submit a good bid or something?
I think Orleans did submit a bid, and it wasn't even entertained.
Considered.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it did pay. It was kind of an interesting issue. So it sounds like VEPSA sounded like they were pretty convincing with that vote.
Yeah.
And anybody going after Swanton Village Electric? Is
No.
Vermont Electric Co-op taking a
No.
note?
No.
Yeah. I suspect you wouldn't entertain these people too easily if that happened. Huh? Boy, are you noticing more with the border? Of course, I've been up to Montreal a few times lately. Not a good person. You still have to do the Arrive Canada thing, which I'm sure most people do easily. A little more of a struggle for myself, but the border's opened up pretty much, and I'm hearing, I'd like to think the Arrive Canada will be gone at some point, but you're noticing more Quebec vehicles and stuff? Is that pretty obvious in town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly good for obviously businesses and stuff.
Boats, there's a lot of boats.
Yeah.
So I'm working over in North Hero right now, and
Wow.
the marina right there by the bridge in North Hero
Yeah, know it.
basically vacant the last couple of years, but there's a lot of boats there now. A lot of boats on the lake, and the Canadian settlements like on the lake over on the Alberg shore. They're teaming now. They're back. That's good. So
that's good. Yeah, I kayak out to Burden Island once in a while, and yeah, the marina like last summer was absolutely. I'd go out there sometimes. Not one boat in there.
Right.
Obviously, just about all their traffic, I guess, is from Quebec. So I assume that marina's gotten picked up
I'm sure.
some business.
Yeah.
That's good. So that's tough. I mean, that certainly hurt. I mean, a lot of folks in Franklin County with the border being closed.
It's always nice to see them come back in, because you can tell they're happy to be here too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Swanton Village PD, are you holding up staffing okay for the police department?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Chief Sullivan, Matt Sullivan, he's a great addition to Swanton. Great guy.
Yep, interviewed one of the last times I saw you, probably when we interviewed the chief.
Yeah.
Does he still get dragged into Burlington once in a while? But hopefully not in the last couple of days.
He hasn't in the last couple of days, yes. But occasionally they'll call him for consultation and stuff. But we've got some good officers now. We just had Taylor Cooper graduate for the academy, so that's a nice.
Boy, as in son of a former state trooper, I remember Kirk Cooper's name comes
Really?
to my mind.
Yes, I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe
I don't know the
so.
Cooper family. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Could be.
But great person, great gentleman. We have a part-timer, so we got Tyler Badeau, who is originally from Burlington, but he lives locally. His wife is a part-timer as well. She's a great asset to the force. A lot of local people that are on the department, and there's a lot of people interested on joining Swanton PD, whether full-time or part-time. So I feel that we've improved our reputation by hiring Chief Sullivan.
Huh.
And I'm happy as heck about the caliber of the officers and their respect for the individual when they approach somebody, whether it's
Yeah.
they're speeding or any violations and stuff or any issues. They're a great group.
Interesting. I know the selectmen, Messrs. Gilmet and White, said that Village PD would be happy to give the town more time, and it sounds like they would ideally love to have more time. They just said just couldn't do it budget-wise. I
Yeah.
guess, what, eight hours a day, I think? Is that what the town gets
Yeah.
from Village PD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think I can say this. I mean, what we presented to them would be cheaper than any other agency that
Yeah.
they could get. So we'll see. Probably next time.
Interesting.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention, and the new people in the workforce on the police department,
Yeah.
we have a walking policeman that
Oh, really?
the community seems to really like. He walks down through the park in the community, and so that's a positive factor in the police department's image, I guess. So you'd
Yeah,
say.
that's Sergeant Badeau.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really? So he'll walk the beat at times,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, he's also got a big wheel bike, so he'll take his bike and he'll hit the trails and ride around. So
Interesting.
they're great. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud of the department right now and the people that we have.
Wow. Boy, if you're doing well staffing, you're certainly, as I hardly have to tell you, doing a lot better than, I think St. Albans PD's faring pretty well, but geez, the Burlington situation, I wake up to the WVMT folks every morning and Kurt Wright, and boy, just I guess they were just saying a 3-year contract with the police, but I guess the police were, I guess, happy with the contract, but I guess had some just pretty harsh words for just, what they've been dealing with lately with the tough situation. So Swanton PD sounds like you're faring pretty well. Any Swanton Fire Department news of note equipment-wise? The department in pretty good shape?
No, we got, there's gonna be a change in chiefs coming up next month.
Yeah?
Jason Butler has decided to back down, and Jason Cross will be stepping up as chief.
Oh, yeah? Who's with the department now, I
Yeah,
assume?
Yeah, Jason, I remember when Jason first joined years ago, so.
And of course, you're a long-time department member still?
I did retire.
Oh, really?
Last year, I sent in my letter to retire.
After how many years, Reg?
34.
Wow.
It's a young man's game, or a young person's game.
Yeah.
So
Well, it sounds like you had probably a few other things to do too.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that issue comes to mind. In fact, Alberg was getting some attention. Sounds like they did some, TV gave it some nice coverage last weekend, just trying to get some more female firefighters
Right.
going. Sounded like it was a nice effort.
Yeah.
Have you got any female firefighters
do.
in Swanton, really?
Lindsay, I'll think of her last name when I'm not trying to think of it, but
Okay.
Lindsay helped out with fire prevention with me a few years back, but she was nominated as firefighter of the year last year.
Oh.
So, very dedicated individual. So,
Good.
Yeah.
I suspect you talk once in a while with your counterpart in Swanton Town, Mr. Savage.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds like Brian's off to a good start with his new job for the town.
Yes.
Yes. I can say this, and I will say this, that Brian is a breath of fresh air. It's nice to sit down with him and have that communications with him. And, we do collaborate and commiserate a lot. So, it's a nice addition, for sure.
That's great. Down to about just a little over half a minute. Neil, you got any final quick thoughts?
Not that I can. I just hope we can come together on promoting the downtown.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any ideas or any ideas to collaborate on, new businesses, new personalities want to come to town, come and see us. We can work with you. I know St. Albans has done a good job with promoting businesses downtown. We don't have as many, but we'd like to promote it. So
Very good. Hey, many thanks to Swanton Village President Neil Spear, Swanton Village Manager Reg Beliveau. Thanks for the time, folks.
you.
Thanks to, I think, Alan for doing all the hard work. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time on Northwest Access TV. See ya.